I am 84 years old. For a long time, walking was a silent torture. Every step was a reminder that something in my body no longer worked as it used to. My knees burned, my ankles creaked like old wood, and even the shortest walks became endurance tests. I tried to smile. I tried to pretend it didn't hurt. But when it hurts just to stand, it's hard to think about anything else. I went to the doctor, of course. They gave me pills, creams, technical words, and more pills. But nothing returned that lightness you take for granted when you're young. Some things eased the pain for a while, but the burning, stiffness, and discomfort always came back, making me want to avoid movement. And when you start to stop moving, you also stop living a little. One day, by accident, I discovered an oil that changed my life. It wasn't a doctor who recommended it, nor a pharmacy. I found it almost by chance, in a hallway conversation, in a recipe an older woman shared as if revealing a family secret. At first, I didn't give it much importance, but I tried it, more out of curiosity than hope. And that's when everything changed. I'm not talking about a miracle or a magic cure. I'm talking about something that started to give me back what I thought was lost. The ability to move without fear, without constant pain, without relying on harsh medications that only mask the symptom. I'm talking about a solution so simple, it surprises me that it's not more well known. In the next few minutes, I want to tell you everything. What this oil is, how I use it, what I felt in my body from the first week, and why I believe it can help you, just as it helped me. Before continuing, I want to know something about you. How old are you? And from where are you listening to me? Before discovering that oil, I lived trapped in a body that no longer obeyed me. It wasn't unbearable pain, the kind that makes you scream. It was worse. It was a silent, constant pain that settled into my day like a shadow. It all started in the mornings. I woke up with stiff legs, as if they had slept more deeply than I had. I felt like my knees were made of stone, that each joint had sand inside. Getting out of bed was a task that required concentration. Putting my feet on the floor wasn't the start of the day, it was the start of a battle. When I walked, the pain appeared with slow but sure steps. Sometimes it was a sharp pain in my lower back, other times a dull burning in my ankles. But the worst was when everything hurt at the same time, with no clear place, as if my whole body silently protested. For a while I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe it was temporary, a bad mattress, a cold, poorly healed humidity. But with the months, the stiffness increased. And there came a time when I simply stopped doing certain things. I stopped going for walks in the park, stopped going to the market, stopped accepting my children's invitations to walk with the grandchildren. I didn't want them to see me walking slowly, with difficulty. I didn't want to be a burden. That was the hardest part. The feeling of losing my independence, of going from being the helper to being the one who needs help. And the worst is that nobody saw it. From the outside, everything seemed fine. They told me I looked strong for my age, that I was exaggerating, that pain is normal. But no one felt what I felt climbing a step, putting on socks, getting up from a chair without support. I went to the doctor, of course. They examined my joints, took x-rays, blood tests. The diagnosis was as vague as it was frustrating. Wear and tear due to age, mild osteoarthritis, mechanical pain. They prescribed anti-inflammatory drugs, painkillers, some supplements, but none of that really changed my life. Temporary relief, side effects, and always the same final phrase: "This is normal for someone your age." But it doesn't feel normal. It feels like you're slowly fading away, like every step is a reminder that you're becoming less yourself. And then there came a point when I simply gave up. I told myself, this is it. This is my body now. I felt like the pain was going to stay with me forever. But it wasn't. After the diagnosis, I did what I was supposed to do. I followed all the instructions, trusting that something would at least return part of the mobility I had lost. I tried medications that promised to relieve inflammation. Some took it away for a few hours, but by evening the pain returned as if it had never left. Others caused stomach discomfort, dizziness, or drowsiness. I remember once being prescribed something that took away my knee pain, but kept me in the bathroom all night. The next morning, I had less pain, yes, but also less energy, less spirit, less dignity. I also used creams. A bathroom drawer was full of tubes and bottles with long names. Some smelled strong, others didn't smell at all. I applied them with faith. I massaged the area, stayed still, waiting for the effect. Sometimes I felt slight relief, a sensation of warmth, but never something that really changed my day. It was like putting a band-aid on a wound you can't see. I tried exercises too. I was recommended gentle stretches, walks, some rehabilitation movements. I did it for weeks, but it was hard to keep consistency when the pain didn't give a break. Some days, forcing my body made everything worse. Other days, I simply didn't have the strength to try. I looked in the mirror and didn't see the man I used to be. And then I started spending. I bought supplements, vitamins, knee braces, ergonomic pillows, special chairs. Each thing came with a promise. This will help you. This will give you quality of life. But in the end, I only accumulated things I didn't use and bills I couldn't justify. One morning, while trying to put on my socks, I realized how low I had fallen. I sat on the edge of the bed, took a deep breath, and bent down. But my body didn't cooperate. My leg wouldn't lift, my back wouldn't bend. I tried 3 times. The 4th time, I just dropped the sock to the floor and cried. It wasn't a loud or long cry. It was silent, like everything else. I cried out of frustration, helplessness, feeling trapped in my own body. I cried because putting on socks was something I never thought I could lose. That's when I understood that what I needed was not just something to calm the pain. I needed to regain hope. The day I first heard about this oil, I wasn't expecting to learn anything new. I had gone to visit an old friend, Clara, whom I hadn't seen for years. She is 87, but walks as if she were 20 years younger. When she opened the door, she looked agile, smiling, with bright eyes. She hugged me tightly and said, "So good to see you, Antonio, but you look so bad walking." We sat down to have an infusion, like we used to. I told her a bit about my aches, the pains, how tired I was of it all. Clara listened with the patience only those who have been through the same have. And when I finished, she didn't say much. She got up, went to the kitchen, and came back with a small bottle in her hands. The bottle was dark glass, without a label. She put it on the table and said calmly, as if not trying to convince me, "Try this for a week, and tell me." I asked what it was. She smiled, like someone who knows a secret. "I won't tell you yet. If I do, you won't take it seriously. Just know that I was worse than you. And now look at me." I didn't know whether to take it as a joke or advice one shouldn't miss. I smelled it. It had a soft, earthy, slightly sweet aroma. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was unlike anything I had used before. I asked how to use it. 1 teaspoon in the morning, right when you get up. That's it. Don't expect miracles in 1 day. But if after 7 days you don't feel different, stop. That was her only condition. Try for a week, then decide. Nothing more. At that point, with everything I had tried without results, I had nothing to lose. So I took the little bottle wrapped in paper, like a small treasure, or perhaps a charm. I had no faith, but I had new curiosity. Something about how Clara walked, spoke, and smiled told me there might be something worth trying. I didn't know what that oil contained, but I did know one thing. For the first time in a long time, I had a little hope in my pocket. The next day, as soon as I opened my eyes, I remembered the little bottle. I had left it on the nightstand, as if not wanting to forget something important. I stared at it for a few seconds, still with that mix of doubt and resignation one feels when they have tried everything and nothing worked. But I remembered Clara's words, 1 teaspoon, right when you get up. So I did that. I poured a small amount on a teaspoon, brought it to my mouth, and swallowed slowly. The taste was curious. A bit bitter at first, then smoother, almost like a nut. It wasn't unpleasant, just different. I didn't mix it with anything. I didn't want to distract its effect. If it was going to work, I wanted to feel it fully. That first day, nothing happened. I didn't expect anything either. I continued my usual routine. I walked with difficulty, sat in my usual chair, avoided stairs. But by evening, something caught my attention. My feet weren't as swollen as usual. I noticed it when I took off my slippers. They didn't hurt as much, weren't as tense. I thought maybe it was a coincidence. A good day, a stroke of luck. On the second day, I repeated the dose. On an empty stomach, as Clara instructed. I didn't change anything else. I ate the same, rested the same. But that night, I slept through the night. It had been weeks since I managed to sleep without waking up several times due to leg discomfort. I got up only once to the bathroom and went back to bed pain-free. On the third day, something happened that made me stop and literally look down. I got out of bed and felt my feet touching the floor with less weight, as if the pressure had lessened. I walked to the kitchen with some ease, without thinking about every step. It was a small improvement, yes, but for me, it was huge. Still, skepticism didn't completely go away. I wondered if it was my imagination, if maybe, because I wanted it so badly, I was interpreting signals that weren't real. I told myself it might be a placebo effect. Or maybe Clara was right. I kept taking it, day after day. Every morning, 1 teaspoon. I started writing in a notebook how I felt. It wasn't a miracle cure. I didn't wake up jumping for joy. But something was moving inside me. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. A real change, though subtle. And with every small improvement, a question grew in my mind. What exactly is this oil? And how can it be doing so much? The first week passed like a slow awakening. Every day brought a small sign. A less painful step, a quieter night, an afternoon without inflammation. By the second week, those signs were no longer small. They were obvious. One morning, without realizing it, I climbed the 2 patio steps without holding onto the wall. I stopped at the top, surprised. I turned to look at the steps as if they were mountains I had just climbed. I had been climbing them with fear or avoiding them completely for months. That day, there was no fear, just steps. The third week, I went out for a walk. Not far, just a few blocks. But I didn't take my cane. I left it resting by the door. I felt vulnerable at first, as if I might fall at any moment. But I didn't fall. I walked. I passed by the kiosk, greeted the baker, heard the birds singing in a park I had stopped visiting out of shame. And that afternoon, returning home, I looked in the mirror and saw something I hadn't recognized in a long time. My face looked different. Not on the outside. Inside. There was something in my expression, a lightness that pain had erased from me for so long. My daughter noticed immediately. She visited me one Sunday, and upon opening the door, instead of asking, "How are you?" she asked, "What are you doing? I can see it in your face." I didn't know what to answer. I laughed, and then I told her. I showed her the little bottle I still kept in its original wrapping. She listened carefully, with that mix of surprise and tenderness children have when they see their parents still keep secrets. By the 4th week, I was walking in the park again, the park where I used to stroll with my wife before she passed. I had avoided that place for many reasons: sadness, nostalgia, and pain. That day, I walked the dirt path without stopping every 5 meters. I sat on the usual bench, under the broadleaf tree. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I didn't cry. It wasn't necessary. Sometimes relief isn't cried. It's breathed. And at that moment, I knew something inside me had returned. Confidence in my legs returned. The desire to go out returned. The idea that I still have much to live for, and that I can do it without dragging my feet, came back. There came a point when curiosity no longer left me alone. I couldn't keep using something that was transforming my life without really knowing what it was. So I called Clara. I asked her to finally tell me the name of the oil. She laughed, and without beating around the bush, she said, "It's black sesame oil, cold pressed, nothing else." I was silent. I expected something more exotic, something with a strange name, something hard to get. But no, that was it. Simple, ancient, almost forgotten. Black sesame oil. She explained that in many parts of the world, especially India and other regions of Asia, this oil has been used for centuries, not only for cooking, but as medicine. She told me about massages with this oil, how it has been used to relieve pain, improve circulation, calm the mind, and strengthen the body from within. When I hung up, I sat down to research, and what I found left me speechless. Black sesame oil is naturally anti-inflammatory, thanks to its high levels of sesamin and sesamelin, two compounds that help reduce inflammation in joints and tissues. It is also rich in natural antioxidants that protect cells from damage and aging. And if that weren't enough, it contains essential minerals like calcium, zinc, and magnesium, crucial for bones, muscles, and the nervous system. Additionally, it helps improve blood circulation, which is key for those of us who suffer from cold feet, swelling, or stiffness in the limbs. And it has something else that isn't measured in clinical studies, its effect on mood. By nourishing and calming from within, one begins to feel lighter, clearer, more connected to their body. But then I wondered, why does no one talk about this oil? Why have I never seen it recommended by a doctor? And then a harsh truth hit me. This oil has no advertising. It's not a trendy product. There's no big company behind selling it in pharmacies with flashy labels. It's part of an ancient wisdom that has been lost over time in the West. Here, when something doesn't come in a pill or an expensive bottle, it's not taken seriously. Modern medicine doesn't study it because it's not profitable. And what isn't studied simply isn't mentioned. Maybe that's why Clara gave it to me as a secret. Because she knew if she told me from the start, I wouldn't pay attention. She was right. Sometimes what we need most is within reach. We've just stopped looking in the right direction. After knowing what I was taking and seeing the changes in me, I wanted to go a step further. Feeling better wasn't enough. I wanted to understand why this oil was having such an effect on my body. So I started reading, asking, listening. The first thing I found was studies done at universities in Japan, India, and Eastern Europe, where natural remedies with millennial roots are still researched. In several of them, cold-pressed black sesame oil showed anti-inflammatory properties comparable to certain common drugs, but without the side effects. In particular, sesamin, one of its main compounds, has been studied for its ability to inhibit enzymes related to chronic inflammation. I also found research showing how this oil improves artery flexibility and stimulates circulation, key factors in joint pain for older people. And even more interesting, there was an improvement in sleep quality and muscle recovery, even in older adults who didn't do intense exercise. That reminded me of those nights when I slept again without jolts, without changing position every 20 minutes seeking relief. But it wasn't just science that convinced me, it was the people. After talking to Clara, I found out I wasn't the only one. 3 other elderly people in her neighborhood also used it. A man with chronic hip pain, a woman who suffered from osteoarthritis in her hands, and a widow who couldn't climb stairs without help. They all agreed on something. It wasn't immediate or spectacular, but week by week, the body responded. They felt looser, stronger, more alive. One of them said it clearly. This isn't miraculous. It's coherent with the body. It gives the body what it no longer produces with as much strength. And that's when I understood something very deep. The difference between traditional medicines and something like this oil isn't just chemical. It's philosophical. Modern medicines often act as if the body were an enemy. They block, force, silence. This oil, on the other hand, doesn't fight the body. It accompanies it. It reminds it what it already knew how to do. It doesn't replace it. It supports it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against medicine. But I've lived long enough to know that sometimes the wisest thing isn't in a prescription, but in listening to the body and caring for it with respect. And this oil, at least in my case, did just that. Today, months after that first teaspoon I took skeptically, I can say that black sesame oil is part of my life. Not as a fad or superstition, but as a firm, simple, and deeply useful habit. My routine is simple: 1 teaspoon every morning, on an empty stomach, before breakfast. I take it alone, without mixing with anything, though some combine it with warm water or a bit of honey. I prefer to feel it as it is. That strong, almost earthy taste reminds me that I'm taking something natural, unfiltered, without additives. Some days I also use it externally. I apply a few warm drops on my knees or ankles when I feel a day of more. Movement is coming. I massage it calmly, patiently. It's an intimate moment, as if I'm talking to my body and thanking it for the effort. There's no magic, no spectacle. There's routine and consistency. That said, I want to be clear. This doesn't replace a medical consultation. If you're taking other medications, if you have conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or digestive problems, consult your trusted doctor. Natural doesn't automatically mean safe for everyone, and every body is different. Another important tip: if you decide to try it, choose a quality oil. It should be cold-pressed from a reliable source and bottled in dark glass to protect its properties. Don't buy the cheapest. Not all are the same. And I also want you to know what this oil does not do. It's not an immediate painkiller. It won't take away your pain in 5 minutes. It won't make you jump out of bed like you're 20 again. Nor will it cure you if you don't do your part. Move, eat well, rest. This oil accompanies, supports the body, nourishes it. But you are still the one who must take care of it. What I can promise you is this: if you're consistent, if you listen to your body, and if you choose well, it can give you a real, silent, deep improvement. Not spectacular, but enough to give you back the desire to walk, to go out, to live with a little more lightness. And sometimes, that's all one needs. Over time, I realized something important. It wasn't just the oil. Although it was the starting point, what really made the difference was the sum of small decisions I made afterward. Not all at once. Some born from impulse, others from necessity, and many from simple curiosity to see what else could improve. I started, for example, to move more. Nothing heroic. Just walking a little more each day. If before I sat all day, now I got up every hour to walk a bit in the hallway. If before I avoided stairs, now I climbed them slowly, carefully, but without fear. I discovered that the body, even in old age, appreciates movement. Sometimes it hurts at first, but then it responds with gratitude. I also paid more attention to rest. I went to bed earlier, turned off the TV sooner, stopped taking worries to bed. I understood that pain intensifies when the body is tired and poorly rested. Sleeping well doesn't just relieve the body, it gives you spirit, clarity, and patience. And food. What a topic. I didn't do strict diets, but I reduced fried foods, white flours, unnecessary sugars. I added more vegetables, fruits, seeds, and especially foods that help reduce inflammation: turmeric, ginger, avocado, nuts. It wasn't hard. It was just choosing better, not eating less. All that added up. I didn't see it immediately, but after a few weeks, I noticed my body hurt less, and life felt less heavy. Because when you take care of yourself, even with simple gestures, you feel more in control of your path. And I understood a great truth. It's not just the oil. It's also how you decide to take care of yourself. The oil was the push I needed, but the rest was willpower and consistency. A small change added to another and another. That's what really transforms. And if you're listening now and think it's too late, I say this with all my heart. It's never too late to start treating yourself with respect. Today, looking back, I can't help but think about all the time I spent believing pain was something I simply had to learn to live with. I was told so many times, It's normal for your age. There's not much to do anymore. With age, the body shuts down. But no. Today I can say with all certainty, don't resign yourself to pain. Not all is lost. Sometimes what we need most isn't a spectacular cure or an expensive medicine. Sometimes the solutions are in the simple, in what was always there, silently waiting for us to look again. An oil, a small habit, a change of attitude, a teaspoon of something that seemed insignificant and ended up changing my life. If you're listening and have felt that no one understands your pain, that nothing works for you, that your body is winning the battle, I want to say something from the bottom of my heart.
Don't give up.
Because if I, at 84 years old, manage to walk again without pain, you too can find something that works for you. Maybe it's not this oil. Maybe it's something else. But it exists. And it's worth searching for. Worth trying. Worth never stopping taking care of yourself. Thank you for staying with me until here.
If what I told you resonated with you, if it touched a chord,
I invite you to share this video with someone who needs it. And I would love to read from you. Have you tried natural remedies for pain? What has worked for you? Leave it in the comments. I read them all.
Because in the end, the most powerful thing is not just to heal.
It is to heal knowing you are not alone.